Leading off starts right now on Fantasy Pros. Hello, friends. It's Chris Welsh and Chris Clegg, the Chris and Chris Show on a Friday edition of Leading Off as we are going to end out the week coming off of an insane performance. We're going to break down home run calls, some prospect talk, and more. Mr. Chris Clegg, what is up, my friend?
What's going on, Welsh? Good to be back. Chris Show on Fridays, always a good time. And man, a lot of good baseball yesterday. So excited to break all that down and look ahead to the weekend as well.
Not quite Mike and Mike, but Chris and Chris will do, especially when we can talk prospects. And we can talk Spencer Strider, who went 8 innings, struck out 16, gave up 2 hits. By the way, didn't walk a batter. Didn't walk a batter in 16 strikeouts. In this game, Clegg, Strider had 22 swing and misses. He accounted for all 5, if you go and look at Baseball Savant on the top pitch velocities, all 5 of the top velocities in this game, 3 of which, technically on the radar, probably all 5 would have registered over 100 because they usually don't, give you the points. It'll just be 100. They'll round up. But he did have 3 that technically went over 100. And Spencer Strider's 22 swing and misses, one of the best single season pitching performances so far this year. Yet, Mr. Chris Clegg, Strider's still just surrounded in all of the muck online. Even though he's incredible and does what he does, people online still found ways to kind of bring it down in that Spencer Strider isn't looking elite right now.
It's crazy. I just don't get it. I mean, how do you argue with what he's done all year? And it's just been dominant performance, and he's just gotten better each start. Like, that's the thing. And we can't discount it because it's just the Rockies. We can't discount because you go back and he had 13 strikeouts in the start, 12 strikeouts in the start, 11 strikeouts, 11. Like, across the board, like, just been stellar. I mean, sure, he had his blow up against the Mets early in August, but other than that, man, he's been really freaking good. And I love what I've seen, like the progression. And you can argue a 2-pitch guy can't sustain, but I think he can. Like, you've seen him using the slider more and more, and love to see that last night. I mean, used it 40% of the time, which was, at least from a month-to-month standpoint, the most that he's used it. And I feel like he's looking at the chart, he's progressively used it more and more. The fastball, as you mentioned, is elite. I think it's one of the best pitches in baseball. Throws the changeup to lefties well. Like, he can be a 2-pitch guy. He uses the changeup against left-handed hitters and makes it work. I don't know. I think Strider's a budding ace.
I think one of the biggest things, like you alluded to, that people keep going back to, because I have a thing all season long, and I poked at it whenever I've got a chance, about the Spencer Strider stuff, where I was on Strider very early, and we had people online that just weren't having it. And I mean, we're talking 3-4 months ago. I brought up Strider, Ashby, and super obnoxious people were like, how would you even ask this question? How's this even a fantasy question? Blah, blah, blah. And they look stupid now because Spencer Strider looks incredible, but it keeps coming up. So I poked at it last night where I was like, hey, Strider, Ashby. And you still had people. You saw, we were talking about it before, and the comments are like, well, let's take Ashby long term, but Strider looks pretty good right now. And it's like, just like Wonky said, we got to define what elite is looking like right now. Is there a worry that this is a 2-pitch pitcher? Yeah, I want my pitchers to have a little bit more of an arsenal. That is something that smelled reliefy before. High strikeouts, 2 big pitches. But like you said, it's one of the best fastballs in baseball. The slider looks dominant. He got 15 whiffs on the slider, 15 of 24 swing throughs, and a 40% rate of throwing the slider. He had a 63% whiff rate on the slider, which was dominant, and a 21% whiff rate on the fastball, which he was hitting 100. And defining what that truly is at this point is going to be the big thing of how we move forward. I mean, they're not giving any innings restrictions on him. He's going to blow up a little bit. I'd liken him a lot to Dylan Cease, like I've said offline, where it can be big strikeouts. Games can get away, but a lot of pitchers' games can get away. And if you can build in any progression into the offseason, maybe he develops a higher plus, third pitch, something that can be used in there. Great. If not, 2-pitch pitchers, they don't always work. Sometimes they go the way of Patrick Corbin, but it's hard to place anything against Spencer Strider right now. And it's not so much that he looks really good and pretty good and thumbs up right now. It's like, no, he looks elite right now. And I'll take his stuff. I think Go Kart just said it. I'll take his stuff every single day. I'm big time team Spencer Strider when there's still just being dumb questions put around him, Clegg.
It's nuts. And you mentioned the command, but like he's lowered the walk rate to 5.1% in the second half. Like that's pretty elite
These are
territory.
literally the things you're looking for from pitchers to progress, yet people are still not accepting them. You're looking for walk rates to drop. You're looking for elite performances. You're looking for them to go deep into games. You're looking for them to be able to continue to get outs second and third time through the order. He's doing all of those things. He's built for this, literally built for this, huge, stocky lower half. He is built for this. And if we can just dream on any type of progression, God, go work with Jacob deGrom in the offseason if you can. Pick up a pitch from somebody. Talk to Max Fried. Get a third pitch that you can occasionally mix in there just to keep batters off. It's going to be great, but I don't know. That 40% rate on the slider, I'll take that every single day because no one can catch up to that fastball right now.
100%. And when the velo's there, and you've noticed, I think the starts that he's not performed well, the fastball set closer to 96 than to 98 and above. So most starts, obviously the velo's been there, but I've noticed those starts where he's not fully had it, the fastball velo is down a bit. So but the good news is that's been there. I mean, last night 98 and a half on the fastball, like we can live with that all day long. Blowing it by people.
If I was a reporter, that'd be one of the first things I'd be asking him to be like in the offseason, be like, is there any consideration for picking up another pitch or working with anybody and see what he has to say? Because someone in the chat was like, imagine if he had a knuckle curve. Just imagine all of the stuff, imagine all of the fun things that could go on. But, we have to be prepared to see a little bit of a bump in the future as far as dynasty goes, because I got, a shock of, where Brian said, there's like a Freddie Peralta before the league adjusted, and you got to worry, you don't want the league to adjust like they are on Freddie Peralta. But Freddie Peralta has also been harping by pretty inconsistencies in the second time through the lineup. I've noticed anytime I've watched him, sometimes in the beginning of the lineup. But either way, Strider with one of the bigger performances of the season, 16 Ks. You want to know something hilarious? The MLB trivia question that popped up today, I'm not even do it because I'll just say it right now. It was like, what player had the most strikeouts in a single game? Come on. You know this, right, Clegg?
In this season?
No, in baseball history.
Oh, off the top of my head, probably not.
Oh no! This is one of those where I'm like, I instantly know that it's Kerry Wood. Kerry Wood.
Oh, that's right.
20.
That's
yeah,
right.
I mean,
my brain was just blanking.
I couldn't even. There goes Wonky has Kerry Wood. I couldn't even put it out there because whenever somebody gets like above 15 strikeouts, everyone starts, Kerry Wood starts going on about that. But I think I'm also a little bit older than you, Clegg. So that might.
I remember Kerry Wood. I do remember Kerry Wood.
I remember watching that game. Do you remember watching that game?
What was that? What, like 03-ish?
I think it was 98.
98. Oh yeah. Okay, so no, I probably didn't then.
Please don't tell me you were like 7.
I was 4.
Oh, it's even worse. It's even worse. Oh my God, that's so much worse than you. I shouldn't have asked you. I shouldn't have gone through it. Let's go through a few others. Rafael Devers leads the Red Sox comeback win over the Rangers after being down by 5 runs in the 8th inning. If only, I know Mike Mayer's asking, if only they could have been doing this, like all the games, not just this one game with Rafael Devers. Which, by the way, the Red Sox looking like a mighty nice stack tonight against Dallas Keuchel with the Rangers. Just throwing that out for everybody. For really anything that you want to play at all, it's looking like take a Red Sox.
Yeah, for sure. And good for Devers. He's been pretty atrocious in the second half. I know injuries have obviously played a factor, but just a 179 average in the second half with 3 home runs. So hopefully he's getting back on track. So good for Devers. And a big game yesterday with those 3 RBI, 2 doubles, like definitely what you want to see.
We got it. We got the age jumping out of the chat right now where everyone's like, oh my God, when Kerry Wood did that, I was graduating college. Wonky said I graduated high school. I can say a little bit younger. I went into high school. That was my going into high school year was 1998. Yeah. So it was a prime time, and little baby Clegg was sitting out there just rocking, just waiting for fastballs and sliders for sure. On the prospect front, Gunnar Henderson obviously had the big homer game and then stole a base, so he's doing a little bit of everything. Initial thoughts on Gunnar Henderson, and also a little comparative. Chris Clegg is a great prospect mind. Good for us to be able to talk about that little Prospect Friday here. And Clegg was starting preschool. Wonky said that made me laugh. Talk to me about Gunnar Henderson and your early impression, but also comparative to Corbin Carroll and his start, since those guys are kind of like intertwined as being 1A and 1B in the top prospect lists.
Well, there's always uncertainty when a prospect comes up, how they're going to perform just right off the bat because there's a lot of pressures. But Gunnar just looks so confident, and Carroll too. They both have come up and look incredibly confident at the plate, and Gunner's looked really good in the field too, which has been excellent to see. So pretty much all around what you've been seeing all year, and he doesn't like he's going to miss a beat moving up to the major leagues, which is a major encouragement. Seeing him already steal a base. I mean, he's still 22 in the minors between double and triple A so far, but you always wonder how that translates as well. So he's effective on the base pass too. I mean, only 3 caught stealings this year. So you hope that that can stick. Gunner's not going to be the fastest runner, but I think the stolen base efficiency is going to be really good there. And the power, obviously a big breakout this year. All the exit velocities really back that up. And you saw that moonshot that he hit for his first career home run. Like, I'm just impressed. His demeanor looks really good, and he just looks like he's somebody that's ready to hit the ground running. And same with Carroll. I mean, you couldn't really ask for a much better start to either of these guys' career with how they've played. I mean, they've come out the gate firing. I mean, Carroll's already driven in 5 runs, scored 4 times. Like, those are things you want to see. A lot of confidence, making good contact, and consistent contact is that. So I'm really encouraged by both Carroll and Gunnar. And this is what we've seen all along. But like I said, you have to question sometimes, like, how does the jump to the major leagues and major league pitching affect them off the bat? I'm not seeing a huge adjustment period for either of these guys.
That's a like really key point at the back there. Is like neither one of these guys look overwhelmed. The nerves are gone. They found success early on, especially Corbin Carroll. I mean, I don't want to take away from Gunnar. It's only been a couple games and he's done it. Same thing with Corbin. They both in different ways have. But if you look into Dynasty for next year, or no, let's go to redraft. Actually, for redraft next year, which one are you more likely to invest in if you're going to invest in one? Obviously, Gunnar has got a little bit more of the better position side. But Corbin Carroll probably going to have a little bit more speed on his side, and I think has a higher probability to hit. I think in a perfect world, I think Corbin is a guy that could hit high in the lineup, and I think Gunnar is a guy that hits around 5 in that lineup. So what would you take redraft next year? Which one would you bank on?
Probably leaning Carroll. I feel there's a little more safety there. But you mentioned the position eligibility is going to be interesting. What kind of eligibility does Gunnar end up with? Like, we've seen him in the minors this year play every infield position. He's already played third and short. Does he even sneak over and get maybe some first and second? I don't know if he plays enough. I mean, obviously, like in FBC formats, he's not going to get enough for that. But Yahoo, you can get position eligibility for almost anything. So that'll be interesting to see. So the position eligibility could be fun to see for Gunnar, but for the safety of the bat, I'll lean Carroll for next year.
Yeah, another interesting aspect I almost wanted to ask. Again, this is kind of like a bigger dynasty thing. But if we had a dynasty show here, is usually I move away from young guys. I move away from prospects. It more has to do with prospects and trying to project when they're going to come up and when we're going to actually have them and paying the high cost. And, there was plenty of people that were worried about like Bobby Witt, like, is he really going to start? And they're drafting around the 80s. And then when there was more confirmation, he moved up into like the top 50. Next year's going to be different, I think, more than ever, because we now have a full scope of how the new manipulation and advantages of players. I think teams have a better idea now. And you're getting so much more of a run of like, we're seeing the Carrolls. Grissom is another one. An interesting thing, actually, I just was watching some video on this before. I see Wax in the chat bringing this up. Grissom, not only, being successful early on and playing in the middle infield, but now is working out in the outfield and is getting some outfield reps, which I was talking about makes the most sense in the world. So my point is you got Grissom and Carroll, and you got all these guys that are getting some run now in lieu of them starting with their team. It's an advantage for all these teams to have them up. Do you see yourself investing in more of these young guys early on next year? Because the problem, I think, is going to be how much are they going to struggle versus the cost that's going to come up now because we have more certainty that they're going to break camp. And the only answers we are going to have, or the small little hints, are going to be these like 100 at bats that they're going to get or so when the season ends to kind of like make us feel okay.
Yeah, I think seeing prospects at least get their feet wet in the majors in the prior season helps me to want to invest more. But like, I don't heavily invest in prospects that haven't debuted yet in a redraft league. Obviously, like a J Rod this year before he was confirmed as being like making the open day roster, he was a super value. Like he was going super
Yeah.
late in drafts, but I didn't touch Bobby Witt. Now that it didn't end up being right because Witt's obviously been incredible. What 1926 this year in home runs, stolen bases, really good so far. And it's just always the question mark of, what player do we see? Do they struggle out the gate? Because for a lot of prospects, there's an adjustment period. And then you look and we see the Torkelsons of the world who have been just had a terrible year to put
I
it.
was about to say there's kind of three realms. Like there's the Julio realm. Bobby Witt is kind of, it's not quite the Julio. Well, I mean, it's still in the same range. It's almost like a best case outcome. So there might be three. And then the bottom end is the Torkelson. And what range are you going to get? The problem with, if you're also evaluating guys, it's like, if you wanted to start getting some comps, it's like a Tristan Casas is probably closer to a Torkelson than the other guys, but a Gunnar and Corbin, those are better high contact hitters, similar to Bobby Witt and Julio Rodriguez. Just an interesting, it's a whole interesting new world we're in with all these prospects, and we're also seeing some of the really early success, and then they're going to get a break, and then we're going to see, in the offseason how that progresses and what their cost is going to be. I really have no idea. Could you even guesstimate? I couldn't even tell you where guys like Corbin Carroll and Gunnar are going to go next year, but I got to take a guess. I feel like it's inside the top 100 in redraft.
I would go top 50. I mean, like at least
So
it depends on what their Septembers look like, but I could certainly see the value just getting out of control. And Rob DiPietro already put together a 2023 draft champions. They're actually going to be playing out, and and this was before Carroll even got the call. I think he went top 50 in that draft, if I'm not mistaken. So,
wow.
yeah, so a big September or even a solid showing in September from both those, I think maybe solidifies them in the top 50 for next year.
There was another prospect call up. It wasn't the middle infielder Yankees were probably hoping for, an Anthony Volpe. Anthony Volpe was sent up to AAA, but they called up Oswalt Peraza, who I'm actually a Peraza fan. His batting average, similar to Volpe, just kind of tanked this year, but counting stats are great. 19 homers, 33 stolen bases, had 100 hits in the minors this year. Didn't even put up 400 at bats, and he put up those stats. But again, he only hit 259. 22 years old, plays shortstop, could play second base. I've always been quite a fan of him. I absolutely love his swing. Clegg, any thoughts on Peraza coming up?
Yeah, I think it's easy for people to look at the overall line and just see kind of not even a disappointing season from a power speed standpoint, but 259 average. But it is important to realize how good he's really been. His first month and a half was pretty bad. Since June, 291 average, 14 home runs, 22 steals, 511 slug over that time. And he's really just progressively gotten better throughout the season. And again, that's what you want to see from these prospects is just the continued development from them. So Peraza is a legit prospect. I think a lot of people faded him early on. He never really budged in my rankings. He was always been around like a top 60 prospect for me. And that's just who he's been. The profile is everything you want to see. And obviously Volpe's the big name, but Peraza's also a really solid player. He's just 22 years old and turned 22 this season. So a young 22 at that, based on what we've seen from prospects, I think this is another one that's going to fly under the radar and probably not get the love that he deserves, but be a pretty solid contributor for the Yankees. And I think he plays every day.
Really? Because one of the things I wonder with some of these guys that are getting these late calls is, are any going to be options coming to the Arizona Fall League? Are they going to want some extra? Because Peraza got under 400 at bats. He'll come up to the majors. If he does play every day, maybe he gets to 500. Is that going to be enough, or do they want to push it more? Because the rigors of a major league season is around 600 at bats. So he could do that if he came to the AFL. Same thing with Carroll. Same thing with Henderson. I'm going to suspect those two specifically, Henderson and Carroll, are going to be guys that don't. But it'll be interesting to watch. And Wonky has a really good point too. Finishing this out is like, I say like around the hundreds. If we're seeing these guys go in the top 50, we're going to get back in. We're going to go right back into my redraft stance of not valuing these young guys because they're going to be overvalued. If you've got Carroll specifically going inside the top 50 in his first full season, and then let's just arguably say his counterpart Alec Thomas is going, 150 plus, I'd rather have Alec Thomas than I love Corbin Carroll, but I just don't know if I would take the risk already just because of 100 and something at bats that he would be a top 50 overall player. The stolen bases would be great, but we're all mixed up with guys like Julio and Bobby Witt and what they've done this year, and that's kind of the argument. It's gonna be fascinating to talk about in the offseason. We don't need to do it here, but lots and lots of good prospect stuff. Oswalt Peraza, keep a lookout for. Maybe another one of those guys is we like Tolia, and we left and right, we're just getting like fun prospects coming up, and nothing to really help. Not a lot of these guys you're necessarily wanting to pick up for your playoff runs unless there's unless there's a big deficit. Like Tolia, maybe if I was purely homer stat hunting, Peraza would be Peraza is kind of a 5-toolish player, so I might be willing to, but we'll see. On the stat heroes, Joey Meneses, 4 for 6 with a homer and 4 RBIs. Alex Verdugo, 3 for 4 with a homer. Christian Walker, with his 212 batting average or whatever, I think this is his 31st. 2 for 3, a homer, 2 RBIs. Shea Langeliers, we talked about looking for some power. He continues to show out. Homer, 3 RBIs with a run. Ty France with a homer. Rafael Devers, 3 RBI, going 2 for 5. Andrew Vaughn, 2 for 5 with a homer. Pollock had a homer. Austin Riley and Julio Rodriguez, 1 for 3 with a homer and an RBI. Andrew Vaughn, I feel like, has been quiet on the back half of this year, Clegg. Where are you at on Andrew Vaughn?
He's a tough one. Yeah, he has faded a bit. The power hasn't really come along as you expected, but the contact skills are really good, and he's maintained a solid average. Like, we expected him to be a higher OBP type than this based on everything that we had seen in college and in the minors, but he's walking at just a 5.5% rate this year. Not striking out much either, 16.4% strikeout rate. So those are encouraging, but like, where is the power at? And I think that's the biggest question mark, because I always, thought that Vaughn would get to more power than I thought. It was plus power in this profile, and it still may be. I mean, 24 years old. Vaughn's kind of playing a variety of positions, and I would say that he's not even comfortable in the outfield, and he's playing left and right field. He played second base twice. I mean, goodness gracious. But his home's at first base or even a DH type. So you have to wonder how much, the playing the outfield positions really affects him at the plate. But overall, I'd say it's been a good season, but it's not been a great season at that.
Yeah, Vaughn is he's actually a lot more of what I thought he was going to be. I was never as big on Vaughn as everybody else. One of my nice little hat tips is when everybody was on Vaughn, I was Bobby Witt back in that draft class. But 15 homers, 289 batting average this year. OBP's kind of I remember I was trying to stir up some news in spring training when I caught him working on a side field at second base. I'm thinking, hey, maybe they're going to have him as a second baseman. This was when all the chaos of him not being a starter was out there. And he's, for the most part, been out there. I think he's eclipsed 400 at bats, 15 homers, good batting average. I think this is the type of guy that he is, though. It's a little bit more average than ever. But I guess we were all hoping a little bit more. It was a plus hit tool. But we were hoping that would lead to like some close to plus power, 25 to 30. But we're not quite there. If we could only mold Christian Walker and Andrew Vaughn together, we could get like a great fantasy player, like a really good fantasy player.
Pretty epic. Yep.
Pretty good. Spencer Strider on the Heroes, 8 innings, 16 strikeouts, as we talked about, only 2 hits. Logan Gilbert hit the K prop, 9 strikeouts. I think his prop was 4.5. 6 innings, only gave up 2 hits, struck out 9. Merle Kelly, 7 innings, 4 hits, 7 strikeouts. Kyle Bradish was only at 3.5 Ks on his K prop yesterday. 7 innings, 2 hits, struck out 5. Clayton Kershaw, another one of those. Actually, on the K props, we hit both of them because Clayton Kershaw's was super low. It's 3.5, and he ended up striking out 6 in 5 innings. So those paid off, especially if you paired those two together. Even a more of a fun fact, Vaughn Grisham, we hit 3 of the 4 props yesterday. And the thing that Bubba said was if you just paired the 2 easy dogs, the Kershaw and the Grisham together, it would pay off. And it did. Grisham had a hit and Kershaw struck those out. So 3 of the 4 paid off. On the stat zeros, Tommy Pham 0 for 4 with 3 Ks. Luis Garcia 0 for 4 with 3 Ks. Matt Olson, Jesus Aguilar, and Victor Reyes, all with big 3K markers. On the pitching side, Eduardo Rodriguez gave up 5 earned runs and a couple homers. Rich Hill, 4 earned runs in 4 innings, walked 4. It was a big 4-4-4. And Brandon Woodruff, 5 2/3, 5 earned runs, 4 Ks. What do you think you will have Brandon Woodruff ranked next year? Are you a big Brandon? I'm not as big of a Brandon Woodruff guy, and I feel like I'm always trying to kind of like justify a little bit him not being. I just don't think he's in that elite class, that elite class.
Yeah, I would have said that before this season, but at this point, like he has dropped off a little bit for me, and he's faded a bit in the second half. You know, even though the numbers do look good, there's been a few more of these blow up type starts, which is interesting to see. Even though he does have a 3.0 ERA in the second half, like he's just had some inconsistencies, and I don't know. He's tough. Like he's a borderline top 10 guy.
For you, I got a question
All right.
for you.
All right,
Brandon Woodruff or Spencer Strider?
I knew that's where you were going.
I got all excited when I thought of it. I was just dancing here, waiting to ask it. Spencer Strider, Brandon Woodruff in 2023.
I do think it's close. I think that Woodruff probably gives you a little more safety, but Strider probably has a little bit more upside based on what we've seen with the strikeouts and the lowered walk rate. So right now, I'd probably say it's a coin flip, but it's based on what you'd rather have. The safety of a Woodruff where you know
What
you're going
side
to
of
get.
the coin does it fall on yours? And
Strider.
there we go. I just wanted to see it. I just wanted to hear it. I wanted to hear Strider. I love it. I think I might be with you there. On the home run calls, I'm sorry, friends, we do not have an updated board. I was not given an updated board, so don't blame me. Austin Riley, though, made some movement on the leaderboard because there was a lot of Austin Riley yesterday. Your leader is still D. Blum at 49, who had Matt Olson, just like me. Did not work out. High Cubby, though, had Austin Riley and is now moved within 1 of D. Blum at 48. Go Cards had Gallo, so is staying at 47. And then Cat Fox at 46, Eskull at 45. And that is kind of the list there. Thank God Joe was knocked off of it. Mike Mayer is still on the board. But there's a lot more separation now. Now it's not like 12 people are tied. There's literally 48, 40, what does it go? 45, 40, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49. That is like the top of the leaderboard here. So it is any man's race or woman's or anybody's race with only like, 28 days to go. It's kind of exciting. It's kind of exciting to see where that is all going to go. Friends, when you want to make your bets, grab your tiara, put it on, go to BetMGM and do it now and make your bets using the promo code leading off. $1,000 risk-free first bet. You can rock that. Look at that tier. It just looks really good with the Fantasy Pros logo, I got to admit. Go do it today. Football season's coming up. College, there's a lot of college in there. You still have an entire month of regular season baseball and playoff baseball. Playoff baseball is absolutely where it's at. So if you haven't already, go use the promo code leading off. Kings, Queens with crowns and tiaras. You can do that today. It doesn't quite look good with the hat. Always. I don't know if it looks good with anything, but I do have the tiara there for you with the red one. And I do have some plays for you if you want to make some bets. So we've got, as usual, 2 total base, the number 1 play and the number 1 plus money play. And then we got strikeouts, the number 1 play and the number 1 plus money play. Today over on bettingpros.com's MLB prop cheat sheet, Danny Jansen is the number 1 play at minus 152 to just get a hit. It's 1 total base. That's all you need. No walk, but just 1 hit is essentially what you need. It is minus 152. He's projected over 2. And the plus money play, it's actually even, but I don't want to like go all the way down. Dan Vogelbach versus Washington, total bases, you just need 1. And it is even money. It's even money. I didn't even realize that. I thought it was 1.5. It is even money for just 1 hit for the Vogues, if you want to take that. On the strikeouts, the number 1 play is Jeffrey Springs, who I believe has been on this list a ton as like the number 1 play anytime he pitches. It's just based off of like projections on what the books want to go, thinking he's not going to go deep in innings, but he does have the Yankees. So the number is 4.5. It's minus 160. They're projected over 6. So that's pretty juiced up. My favorite of all of these is the plus money play of Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray, only 4.5 strikeout number against the White Sox. and he's projected over 5. I love this play. This would be one I would go with. So, Chris, what do you think? You got Springs, Gray on the strikeouts, Vogelbach, Jansen. What do you like? Do you like any? Do you like multiple? What are you playing here?
The Gray one's pretty much a no-brainer for me, I think, at this point. You look at, I mean, yes, Gray only struck out 4 in his last start, but it was against the Giants. Prior to that, he went 6, 10, 5, 5, 5, 7. Yesterday, the Sox struck out 12 times, and on Tuesday, they struck out 11 times. So to me, that feels like a pretty good play for the plus money. I do like Jansen as well. Obviously, there's a little juice there. Springs could be interesting. Obviously, going against the Yankees, it could work out. I'm not sure how I feel about the Vogelbach one, to be honest. He's been kind of in and out. He hasn't had a hit since the 22nd of August. So
That's why it's even money at 1.
Right. So yeah, the Gray one's pretty much a no-brainer in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And I was laughing. Heller High Water had said, I think Strider just had another K, just like right now. It just made me laugh. Also, I would say, I think Wonky is like alluding to this. Just pick a Red Sox and be comfortable taking the total base marker. I didn't even look, but let's see if I can take a look real quick. I'm going to go to the Boston game. Like Xander Bogaerts' total bases would be one I would play. And I think that is something we're going to hear in a little bit. Let's see. Okay, so let's see. Bear with me here for a second, because this is where you're going to make some money, is going against Dallas Keuchel. So on the Boston guys, I mean, I like JD Martinez. They actually are not even listing. I don't even see on the cheat sheet Xander Bogaerts. They took him off. But you almost have even money on JD Martinez total bases. You need 1.5. I'd smash that. I absolutely love that one. Like it over the Trevor Story one. Whatever. I don't see Xander's, but if it's out there, I would take a look at that as well. But I would take the JD Martinez one, and I would be very happy with it. On the DFS side, some pitchers for you. Alek Manoah is 11 on FanDuel. Luis Castillo is 10-8. Sonny Gray is 9-1. And Jordan Montgomery is 9-6. But we're playing on the cheap side. Gray and Montgomery, those are two that I like. I always love Luis Castillo in there. Implied run totals of over 5. You've got St. Louis, Toronto, and Boston if you want to play some stacks. And yes, Boston. So just anybody in the front of the lineup. And that takes us to the home run calls. Clegg, what do you got on here? The guests have been doing pretty good so far this season. Who's your home run call for Friday?
This one was kind of tough. I went back and forth on how I felt about today's call. I was kind of leaning Aaron Judge, but I don't know. It's I had a couple, so I'm just going to have to just make the call, and I'm going to actually stick with Judge. I think he's the most likely going up against Springs at lefty. Like the matchup, even in Tampa, Judge's power kind of transcends that park. So it's Aaron Judge today, and I think Judge has a big weekend as well.
You and Joey. Wonky has got Xander Bogaerts. Mike Mayer's got Jose Ramirez. I think Ramirez is one of the better BVP plays of the day. And I'm going to go JD Martinez. I literally, when I was looking through the schedule and I saw Dallas Keuchel, I said, all right, I got to pick a Red Sox. And if Keuchel was a righty, I would have gone with Rafael Devers. So I needed my next righty. I didn't want to copy Wonky with Xander, but I like JD just as much. I mean, if he's theoretically hitting 5th in the lineup, the opportunities for Xander to get another at bat increase a little bit, but it's Dallas Keuchel, so I don't think it's going to matter. Dallas Keuchel probably going to last 3 innings anyway, so they're going to each get 2 at bats, and hopefully going to be some crushing of homers. And friends, that is it. Clegg, what do you got going on? What's going down in your world?
Not too much, man. Just wrapping up minor league stuff. We've got one more home series here in Greenville, so I'll be out a couple times next week for the end of the drive season. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but it's been a good one. Got a lot of looks at a lot of good players. So it's been fun. Still doing quick grades. I've unfortunately wrapped up my last prospects to stash for FantasyPros. That article was the last one of last week. So a lot of those hits, a lot of good ones. Hopefully you were rewarded with some of those prospects. But yeah, quick grades is out now. We'll be out every Friday or Saturday the rest of the week there. So that's really what's coming around on FantasyPros. Still doing Dynasty ranks, prospect ranks on Fantrax as well. So you can find those there.
Beautiful. Find them on Twitter at RotoClegg. By the way, Wonky said found even money on Xander at 1.5 on FanDuel total bases. Thank you very much. Friends, you can follow me on Twitter at isitthewelsh. You kind of know all the stuff that's going on. It's a brand new month. It's a great time to check out our Patreon at inthisleague.com. And I'm going to be working on early 2023 ranks that are going to go over there and all my prospect stuff, Dynasty, Prospect 500, and preparing for almost 1 month to the day for the Arizona Fall League, where all of your favorite prospects will be circling around here, and I will be circling around them. Thank you guys for hanging out with us during the whole week. We'll be back same time next week right here in Leading Off. It's Fantasy Pros, and we are out of here.